Hello, podcast listeners. We know podcasts are a great way to catch up on a program that you may have missed on KSJE, and it's provided as a free service of this radio station. But you know, KSJE is now listener-supported, and so while you enjoy this podcast, we hope that you'll also take some time to join KSJE. Become a member today. It's quite easy to do. Just go to our website at ksje.com/support and pick the level of support that best matches your budget. Thanks again for listening. Here's your podcast.
Good morning. This is Traci Hales with Right on Four Corners on KSJE 90.9 FM in Farmington, New Mexico, 103.3 in Durango, Colorado. Today I'm talking with Jodi Lea Stewart about her Silki books. Silki, the Girl of Many Scarves. Hi, Jodi.
Hi, Traci.
Well, I'm really appreciated reading Silki, the Girl of Many Scarves, and her 3 books.
Oh, well, thank you so very much. I there's nothing I like more than people that tell me they love Silki.
Yeah, you've really developed her personality. Now, before we go further, why don't you give a little recap of what the 3 books of Silki are about?
They're considered and have been called Nancy Drew meets Tony Hillerman.
Ah, I like that. Yeah.
A concept, because it's all set in the Navajo Nation, which is 27,000 square miles.
Right.
Set in Arizona, New Mexico, and a little bit of Colorado. So they are mysteries, adventure mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
And Silki is someone who finds herself always in some kind of a predicament or a complex situation. And how does she get out of them? Well, ingenuity, circumstances, and her scarves. She has an addiction to scarves.
Yes.
And she wears a scarf chain tied many, many scarves together around her neck most of the time, and it's become sort of a trademark with her.
Mm-hmm.
So that is kind of who she is. And I'm going to go through the first one, Summer of the Ancient, was my first Silki book. And it starts out on Concho Mountain. And Silki and her best friend Birdie have grown up there. And they've grown up riding their horses and making up imaginative tales. Well, she and Birdie are a little bit on the outs right now because, lo and behold, Birdie has discovered guys. And she lives for that and volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Silki is still like, no, let's ride, let's pretend, let's do this and that, although she's a young teen. So she's by herself to stay on Concho Mountain. And Wol-la-chee, which is someone that Silki totally had made, jumps off this bed. An ancient ant-man literally jumps off this boulder and scares the wit out of her. And she can't wait to jump on her horse and get to Birdie's house and tell her that the Wol-la-chee is real. But here's Birdie completely thinking, you're so immature. That was from our childhood. What's wrong with you? So that's real hurtful. But anyway, Birdie goes about her own way, and Silki continues to experience these very mysterious situations on the res. And she can't seem to get anybody to either believe her or understand or listen to her. So her angst continues throughout the summer, and then it winds up with Birdie and she on Concho Mountain getting lost up there at night. And some very intriguing things happen, and they then find out the answers to what in the world has been going on all summer long in Silki's world, and Birdie now sees it. But I believe I touch in that book really the precarious nature of friendship,
right.
Because it is.
Right.
It's kind of precarious.
Especially at that age.
Yes, at that age. Because, I don't know, you seem to grow like trees. One might grow in, also.
Right.
And between a man and another. I don't think a lot of adults have learned how to do that.
Right. Very true.
Silki has to learn how to do that in this novel. And then loyalty, to oneself and family and even your core of the ancient.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wrote Canyon of Doom, and it is full of moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
And it begins with Silki and Birdie finding a piece of metal, an odd piece of metal that they start calling a medallion in the bogs of Canyon de Hacha. Canyon de Hacha is a very mysterious place close to where Birdie and Silki live out on the res. It also features a lion-shaped rock that you can see on the front cover of the book, and it plays an important part. On the side of the lion rock is an old petroglyph, hieroglyphic etchings from many, many years as people used to pass through there over the centuries. They had written their stuff on that wall. And now a huge, well, call it nature, has come and put a huge wall on the side of that wall. And when Birdie and Silki learn about this through the art of storytelling, I feature in this novel, cultural storytelling, events transpire with all of these strange, unusual characters that start coming to town, including one that Silki dubs Amber Eyes. She literally runs into him in the first chapter. She collides with him. She's running through a crowd. And he's got a deep, growly voice. He's handsome and he's tall, and he says, "Don't run through crowds." After that, she keeps seeing him here and there and here and there. Once she says, "Is he triplets?" Because every time she turns around, there he is. And here are these other odd characters. She decides, well, they're all part of this gang, maybe from Chicago or something, because Silki has this overdeveloped imagination, whether she's believing Birdie or not.
Right.
And so events occur, and it winds up where Silki and her rebellious cousin Telastic, that is spending the summer there, wind up in a very dangerous situation in that canyon. And if I do a little reading after a while, it will be from that book and from that exact instance.
Oh, good.
And my themes in that one were mostly touching on the art of cultural storytelling is so important for everyone, and I think a lot of people have lost that, but certain races like the Navajo, they're very big on it, and I find that something to admire. Also, treasure rumors from World War II.
Right.
I have that in there. And, of course, good outweighing evil, that triumph over adversity, or good over evil. It, again, has a very shocking ending. All of my Silki books do. Okay, Valley of Shadows. The history theme of that one is about the Japanese who were interred on the Navajo res during World War II.
Right.
And some of the repercussions and the places. That's kind of a recurring thing happening there. But what happens in this one, a very famous horse is stolen while Birdie and Silki become accomplices and viewed after that beautiful horse. And they get interviewed, and they're shocked that this has happened, but then events continue on, and it winds up that there's an international theme to this book, and there are characters showing up. There's a lot of heartbreaking moments in this one, but I will say that they get fixed. I couldn't leave Silki fans heartbroken.
Right.
But there's a lot to get her heart mended. You know? In this particular book, this was really a hard one for me to write because I wanted to do honor to the Japanese people, and I wanted to do honor to just some things in this one that, you know, I wanted to tie up the loose ends, but I just wanted to evaluate Rev's life in light of today's modern standards, because she has a cousin who comes to visit from Oregon, a male, and he's in half the book, Sky, and he's not interested at all in the Navajo concept, although he is half Navajo. And so he begins to see the res not just through Silki's eyes, but through his own, and realizes that he's connected to history that goes so far back, and then he feels honored by that. So I wanted to kind of present that aspect, and then just the history of people who have marched through that part of land, the Japanese. There have been Native Americans, there have been Spaniards and Hispanics, and so I've tried to hit all of those themes in addition to the horror of Indian boarding schools that Silki's grandmother goes through to this day. She's kind of an odd lady, but as true as can be. But she's odd, and she carries a lot of PTSD remnants from being stolen from her family and forced to go to a school and leave all of her customs behind. So I kind of touch on that one a little bit, too. So that's a basic concept for those 3 novels.
Right. And we get to know Silki really well and her family, which is really an important theme, I think, through all of them, is how the family interacts with each other.
Thank you. That was important to me, too.
Yeah.
And that culture is also, as diversified as it is very important to people.
Right. So now, why did you decide to write Silki? How did she come to mind? And that's quite different than you yourself writing about this little Navajo young woman.
Well, it occurred quite naturally, actually, because I grew up on a ranch in the White Mountains.
Uh-huh.
Our ranch, the Navajo Nation, part of the Navajo Nation, and we were also very near the Apache reservation and out there in the country.
Uh-huh.
We had a country school, and most of my friends, except for just a very few, were natives and Hispanics.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am with these long blonde braids down to my waist and these blue eyes, and you can see my eyebrows. I'm so fair. And I just had the most fun of all having these friends to go visit. So that was, I grew up with these kinds of people, and I loved them, and it became natural to me. I mean, we used to find arrowheads and pottery shards everywhere on our ranch. We had a large ranch up there, and we had no TV reception. We didn't have satellite, and we only could get a little bit of radio reception, maybe at night. So what did I do? I rode horses. I climbed up the windmill. I jumped on the butane tank and rode it like a trick rider. I sang to chickens and made up stories because I had 2 older brothers. They had to go build fence and do all this stuff. Well, I always helped cook and clean the house and all that sort of thing. But then what? Hour after hour of being there in the summer especially. Oh, I hated summer because I loved school so much. And then here comes summer, and I was like, what am I going to do?
What am I going to do?
I read books, and I imagined. Yeah. And when school came again, those were my classmates. So it was really pretty natural for me to want to write a story about a Silki.
Well, it reads really naturally. And the atmosphere, and I know that you wrote some, I believe it was in your acknowledgments, that the red rocks that Silki climbs around are reminiscent of the white rocks where you grew up.
Yes, they were exact duplicates.
Ah, so you knew that.
And I loved those rocks. And everything that you see and hear, the big, tall anthills, we had those. I used to watch ants. You can stand on a rock and don't bother them. They'll leave you alone. And they just, they toiled and worked and brought stuff up the sides. Here's an old wasp wing. Here's a, this and that. And the hieroglyphics, we had a wall, a blackened wall on one section that you walked through. It was soft sand. And it was Indian writing and blackened smoke from the Anasazis, or I don't know if that term is still used, but that's what we called it back then. And I had my own ways. I was a slim little girl, which I still is a slim little girl. But anyway, I had my own way of getting to the top, and I prided myself on how quickly I could do that. So, you know how she slithers through this and she goes up this little, yeah, that was my path.
Oh, I love it. And of course, her best friend really is Smiles, her horse.
Yes.
We like Smiles.
Oh, yeah. Smiles is something else. And which book did you like Smiles the best in?
I think that I really liked Canyon of Doom.
The friends, and he seems to understand her every mood, and vice Fury from the TV series, like, da-dun, I am so fancy. So he had our number, I believe.
They do that, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think now it might be a good time to read something for us from, you said you want to read from Canyon of Doom?
I do, and the setup is that Silki and Telastic are in a bad situation with some bad guys, and they're in Canyon de Acha, and Silki has been inside that bunch of greenery that grows on the side of the hieroglyphic wall, and she realizes that she and Telastic has been captured by these guys, and she's always someone who comes up with a plan and a mission, so she gets a plan in her head how to save both of them.
Right.
And inside this lion rock is a cavern, and they're not anybody supposed to go in there because it's become very dangerous. And she hasn't gone in it, but now she has a plan that she has to do to save herself. Bunch of greenery that grows on the side of the hieroglyphic wall, and she realizes that she and Telastic has been captured by these guys, and she's always someone who comes up with a plan and a mission, so she gets a plan in her head how to save both of them.
Right.
And inside this lion rock is a cavern, and they're not anybody supposed to go in there because it's become very dangerous. And she hasn't gone in it, but now she has a plan that she has to do to save herself and Telastic. Okay, this is Silki. It's first person. All the novels are first person told in Silki's voice. I didn't like leaving Telastic alone, but we both had to be brave. Remember your promise, I called in a shaky voice as Bo turned to go. He raised a hand in the air without turning around. Thunder growled in the west as I stepped through the thicket. Angel followed close behind me. I was thankful the heavily clouded sky made it too dim to see the wall of history. At least that part of the secret would stay safe. I stood in front of the passageway to cover the Spanish writing above the hole. Mole, get in here, Angel yelled. Mole held my breath. He'd break the V branches. Ow! What the heck is that thorny crap? He said. He wobbled down the narrow path. The bottom of his leg veered too far outside the thicket and grazed a cactus. He howled in pain. Eres tan estúpido como un perro, Angel mumbled. Mole pulled 2 cactus quills out of his calf, cursing under his breath. He dropped to his hands and knees, scraping himself on the rock as he went down. He licked his scratched wrist. Beads of sweat hung in the bottom pit of his scar. He was terrifying up close and smelly. Focus on the mission, Silki, she says to herself. Right? I cleared my throat. Okay, don't worry too much about the sounds you're about to hear inside this hole. Try to ignore them. I dropped my voice to a whisper. Some people say this lion cave is full of evil spirits, but we don't really believe that. Not too much, anyway. If you smell something peculiar, that might be a ghost. Ready? Angel's and Mole's expressions should have been bottled up and sent to Dr. Gavrell at the Smithsonian. The bottle would have been labeled Pure Fear. Inside the passageway, I felt for my coiled scarves. They felt like home and safety. In a mysterious voice, I said, we have to travel in an S shape, plus a few more turns, then straight. Oh, I almost forgot. When I used the flashlight in here one time, I saw these strange-looking brown spiders and a few albino scorpions living on the right-hand side of the passageway. You'd probably stay sort of far left. In unison, both men scooted to the left side. I was actually scaring myself. So far, they hadn't noticed my scarves, and I wanted it to stay that way as I unrolled them on the right-hand side of the tunnel. What really lay ahead in that dark passageway? Aunt Susan warned us that it was too dangerous to go inside nowadays. If I didn't go very far, maybe I would survive Operation Bogus. After a few minutes of slow hands and knees crawling, that's silly. What's that I hear over here? A rattlesnake? That's silly. It's too dark in here for snakes, isn't it? There it is again. Can you go check it out, Angel? No answer. Okay, I'll go. I'll be right back. I scooted ahead, unwinding my scarves and furiously feeling the ground in front of me. When I'd put about 6 feet of distance between us, I turned and made my best ghost sound, a mixture of a wolf howl and blowing wind. Angel, is that you? I called in a scared voice. His no sounded weak. The passageway was curvier than I'd expected. Sometimes it split off in 2 or 3 directions. That was good, because I had my scarves to guide me out. Angel and Mole didn't, and I was counting on panic to make it worse when I disappeared. I inched forward a few more feet. I was totally out of scarf rope. There it is, the cave room, just ahead. Hurry! As soon as I heard Angel's breathing, I started wailing. Ow, side cramp. I have to lie flat. Oh, it hurts bad. Do you know CPR, Angel? Never mind. I think it's my appendix. Go on ahead if you want. I moaned. The most incredible sight of your life is just a few feet away. You'll come back and get me, though, right? I was just testing you guys about the locker being hard to find. It's in plain sight in the bottom of the cave room. Don't forget me. Oh, the pain. I moved over for Angel to pass me. When he was even with me, I started fake crying. Mole was right behind Angel, wheezing and huffing. He stopped. If I didn't hurry, Operation Bogus would fail. Looking low, I said, Angel said you don't deserve to see the gold. He said you aren't new man material. Is he right, Mole? The gold is only 5 seconds ahead. 5 seconds. Mole sounded like a fat pig doing aerobics. I pulled my scarf rope tight and followed it back to the opening as if a ghost was breathing down my neck. Maybe it was. I tossed my scarf rope outside the passageway, stood to stretch a half second, then began pushing the rock back in place. Fear made me strong enough to poke it back into place twice as fast as before. 2 men down, 1 to go. Or was it 2 to go? That depended on Amber Eyes. And that's it.
Oh, that's
She's
great.
got these
That just shows how she's so imaginative, and she just takes control of that situation.
She is a take control girl. She
She
doesn't
really
just stand
is.
back and wait for somebody to lead her. She jumps out there.
That's really true. An interesting and so familiar character of these sad teenagers.
I thought so too, and you know, we all probably have someone we know in our own families that we can relate to as Telastic. Of she's basically deeply hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes out in a different way, and often teens start acting up after that. But her family back on the res didn't want that to happen, so they rescued her.
Right.
And had to happen for Telastic.
Yes. And Silky would. I love the way she handled her without, being belligerent or just trying really hard to understand her.
She did.
Mm-hmm.
She had remembered the old times and how much fun that they used to have with her and Birdie, and how much Telastic used to love the res, and then she hated it,
Right.
supposedly,
Right.
this time.
Yeah, it's great hearing these stories. Now, will there be any more Silky books?
I will never say no. I'm writing number 8 novel right now, and number 7 is at the publisher. And we recently took all of my novels and published them, and it was a decade of writing. So I've been a little bit busy.
Yes.
But I'll never say no. If an idea comes to me, I've kind of kicked that thought around a few times,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were sad when I stopped writing them. And I said, well, I feel like I have to go forward, and I
Right.
might come back.
Great. Because you have several books out there, and they're very different.
That's why it's hard to define me.
That's right. Well, that's good. That's a good thing.
Well, I kind of define myself as a high-concept writer
I like it.
who who has a literary pen, because at the end of my books, I want people to feel like they've been on a big adventure and that the main characters are friends. I want them to know them and feel them.
Yes.
And you get that in a literary book, but you don't get that a lot in high concept.
Mm-hmm.
My example of that is where the Crawdads Sing. Excellent description of terrain. I mean, after all, the author is a biologist.
Uh-huh.
And the habits of the book, I did not know what the protagonist looked like.
Right.
I just knew she had dark hair.
Right.
And now the movie fills that in pretty well. But I kept saying, why don't I feel like I know this protagonist at all?
Exactly. But not so in your books. Your characters are very real.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. I want that to be true.
It is.
And everything I write, too, I like it to have humor.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There has to be, in the worst situations, you can think of something to put in there to make people smile and identify with.
Right. So what is the latest book that you have out now?
The one I have at the publisher is, it's called The Gold Rose.
Oh.
1, 2, 3. Little fiction. I have, let's see, it'll be my 4th historical fiction book. And it is set in the 1940s. The backdrop is not only, well, it has, again, 3 main characters in this one. And one of the characters is in China. She's during the invasion of Japan then the ensuing takeover of communism. And they all begin in Texas, and then this one little girl is not stolen, but she was abandoned on a dirt road into Argentina. Then she is stolen into Argentina, and the Gold Rose is actually an agency. It's a rescue. I was writing this a little bit when my last novel came out, Triumph, a novel of humans. I just focused on it. And I always say this. I think this is my favorite one, but I feel that way every time.
I think that's a good thing.
So I'm excited about it. We've just designed the cover.
Oh.
And, it's an outstanding cover. I have a lot of help with my publisher, Progressive Phoenix Rising, owned by Amanda Thatcher. And we have a lot of, back and forth and head meeting and all that. And I appreciate it. I have a lot of concepts myself of how things should be. And I have to be allowed a little freedom because I go crazy.
And that reminds me, the artwork in the Silki books is significant.
Yeah. My artist in the first one was in Canada, and then part of it was done by Mauricio Simpanini, and I have lost contact with him. I can't find him. He's in Italy.
Oh, too bad.
And I just feel like something happened to him. And he's the one who drew the actual Silki face. Mm-hmm. And in the second and third books, he did all the art.
Right, and they're wonderful.
I think he was just incredible. And I can't go to Italy and find him.
Right, right.
I lost him.
Oh, that's too bad. Because he did well.
Thank you very much. I think it's nice to have the artwork in there. Every time people read Silki, they want to draw something. So,
right.
My goal is to just keep working hard and keep writing novels that other people love. Mm-hmm. And give back to those who are coming up in the ranks, although a lot of them don't want to hear anything. I have the knowledge and would love to share if they want to know about my journey. I know I'm a much better writer 10 years later than when I started writing novels, and I owe that to just, immersing myself in it, but also taking advice.
Oh, good.
Advice.
Yeah, that's great.
It's important, and I've had a lot of people give me great advice. My editor, Chris Ebach, she was actually my tutor when I was I decided to take a fiction writing course, and that's when I morphed from being a nonfiction writer. And I did that just to challenge myself. And because of her encouraging me to write books That's why I do.
Well, that's great. I'm glad she did.
You need to write novels. But okay.
Yeah, because you have quite a few out, and they're all really, really have enjoyed those. So keep it up. Keep it up.
Oh, thank you so much. I can't wait for you to read The Gold Rose, Ben.
I can't
I think
either.
you'll really like it.
I look forward to reading it and talking with you about it.
Oh, thank you so much.
And that was Jodi Lea Stewart. You can find more about her at her website, Jodi Lea, L-E-A, Stewart, STEWART.com. This is Traci Hales with Right on Four Corners on KSJE 90.9 FM in Farmington and 103.3 FM in Durango.
Did you enjoy that podcast? We hope that you did. And if you did, share it with your friends. And if you really want to keep podcasts like this coming, please support KSJE. You can do it easily online at ksje.com.